All right, homework 15, still working with those absolute value things, and we said whenever we do the absolute value, we have two parts to our problem, right? So, in this case, if I have the absolute value of 4x minus 2 is greater than 6, I'm going to have two problems. First problem, exactly the same, just without the absolute value. So 4x minus 2 is greater than 6. Then we're going to make a second problem, and on the second problem we're going to do the negative, but when we do the negative we have to flip this sign. So my second problem is going to be 4x minus 2, and instead of being greater than, we're going to flip that to a less than negative 6. So when we do the second problem, we're going to flip the sign, make that number negative. Now we just solve each of those separately. So on the first one, got to move our 2 to the other side, so we're going to add 2. 4x is greater than 8. And then of course we got to divide by our 4. X is greater than 2. Then we got to solve the other one. Same steps, I got to move my 2 to the other side, so I'm going to add my 2. 4x is less than negative 4, and then divide by 4, so x is less than negative 1. So once we have those solved, now we're going to put them on our number line. Keeping in mind, if I don't have the equal to bar, I use the open circle. If I do have the equal to bar, I use the filled in dot. So we're going to have open circles around the 2 and open circles around my negative 1. It says x is greater than 2, so I'm on the right side of the 2. X is less than negative 1, so I'm on the left side of negative 1. And so I end up having my graph going in the two opposite directions on this one. All right, and number 2 says graph the solution to the inequality on the number line. We have the absolute value of 6x plus 9 is less than or equal to 15. Again, we have the absolute value. We have to have our two different cases. First one, exact same problem, just without the absolute value. 6x plus 9 is less than or equal to 15. The second one, when we do the negative, we've got to reverse our inequality sign. So 6x plus 9 is greater than or equal to negative 15. We then solve each of our inequalities separately like we normally solve our inequalities. So on the first one, I'm going to minus my 9. 6x is less than or equal to 15 minus 9 would be 6. And then of course I got to divide. Dividing by 6, x is less than or equal to 1. On the other one, same kind of thing. I'm going to move my 9 to the other side, so I'm going to minus my 9. 6x is greater than or equal to, both of those are negative, so negative 15 plus a negative 9 would be negative 24. And then again, I have to divide by my 6. I'm dividing by a positive 6, so I leave my sign. X is greater than or equal to negative 4. I have to put both those on the number line. Since they do have the equal to bar underneath, we're going to use the filled in circle. So we use a filled in circle at 1 and a filled in circle at negative 4. And then I have to think about my shading. I am less than or equal to 1, so I'm on the left side of the 1, greater than or equal to negative 4. So I've got to be on the right side of the negative 4. So if I'm less than the 1 but greater than the negative 4, you'll see that I end up shading between my two dots. So what you want to notice is if you looked at the first problem, when you have a greater than or a greater than or equal to, my distance is farther out, and so I'm going to shade the two opposite sides just to double check yourself. On this one, we had a less than or equal to. I'm less than that many places from the middle. I'm going to shade between my two dots. And so watch for that when you're done. If it originally starts off with a greater than equal to, shade the outsides. If it's a less than or equal to, you should end up shading the middle. Should be able to tell by your answers anyway, but just to double check yourself. So, got an absolute value problem. I got to do my two problems. So if I do my two problems, my first problem would be
negative 2x plus 7. And is that greater than?
that's greater than or equal to
3.
3. My second problem,
Negative 2x plus 7 is greater than or less than negative 3.
less than or equal
Or
to
equal to.
negative 3. Points in the opposite direction, right? All right.
Oh, points in the opposite direction?
Sure, because here we have it this way, and when we do the negative, we got to flip that sign, right? So they should always point in the opposite direction when you write down your two problems. So, solving the first one, if I'm going to solve that first one, what should I do?
You are going to bring your 7 over to 3.
So I'm going to minus my 7, right?
7.
Negative 2x is greater than or equal to negative 4 then. And then I'm going to
Divide by 2.
divide by
Negative.
negative 2. And when I divide by that negative, what happens?
You flip your sign.
I flip my sign. So x is less than or equal to 2 when I finish solving that. Okay, on the other one. Solving that. Again, we're going to start by subtracting our 7. So negative 2x is less than or equal to negative 10.
Divide that by 2.
Divide that by negative
Or
2.
negative 2.
And x is going to be,
X is going to be 5.
and what's my symbol?
Greater than.
Greater than or equal to, because I divided by a negative, so I had to flip it. So what kind of end mark am I going to have on the 2?
You can have an open circle on the 2.
Nope,
Oh, no?
because it has the equal to,
Oh,
right?
okay, a closed one.
A closed circle on the 2. What kind of end mark do I have on the 5?
You have a closed one.
Closed one on the 5. So I'm going to shade less than the 2, greater than the 5. Which way should my arrows be going?
Opposite direction.
The opposite direction. Less than the 2, greater than the 5. We knew that anyway because this started out as a greater than, and if it starts out as a greater than, you should be ending up going in the two opposite directions.